Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news this Sunday morning. I hope you're all doing really well. There is some movement for Manchester United. Is it movement enough or are they still constipated in this really poor transfer window? Look, Dean Henderson to Crystal Palace is a here we go from Fabrizio Romano this morning, so we can talk about that. CUCARELLA to Manchester United as a left back is a divisive one. We'll get a poll running on that. Also, keep your eye on Harry Maguire. That still could happen this week. Ten Hag is trying to freeze him out like Mr. Frost, but will it work? He's trying not to. He's trying to get to warmer climates and stay thawed, but will it happen for Maguire? We'll talk about that as well. Amrabat, lots and lots and lots to talk about, but obviously, I think the big thing to say here is that this final and it terrifies me to say this. I never thought the number 5 would terrify me as much. Although it is the number 5 that Harry Maguire wears, it's a terrifying number. I've never liked the number 5 actually. I like 1, 3, 4. I don't like 2. I've got a weird OCD thing going on. I'll explain it to you one day. But I don't like the number 5. It's terrifying. And there's 5 days to go of this transfer window, where Manchester United have got to move really, really quickly. So I'm not surprised this morning that we're not talking about maybes. We actually are doing something because we have to. You know, we can't have any more days of doing nothing. We've got to do something. So Dean Henderson leaves for Crystal Palace for I think it's £15 million or something like that, with add-ons taking it up to 20. At the end of the day, I think we're all happy that Dean Henderson is going. There's a good goalkeeper there with a terrible attitude. And whether he's a nice guy or not, his public persona is disgraceful. Like the way he's acted over the last 2 years, the disrespect to De Gea, the disrespect to the club, the disrespect to the manager. And then to, this summer to just, nobody actually wants him until Palace at the end of the window. This is a player that we should have sold for, look, shoulda, woulda, coulda. There's £15 million there now. This should have been there in June. Like, this should have been a deal that was done in June. We've got it done. Yabba dabba do. We move on. But I don't think anybody's going to lose any sleep about Dean Henderson leaving Manchester United. And let's be honest, he wants to leave Manchester United anyway. So, look, it's good he's gone. The thing is, we're using half of that fee on a goalkeeper I know next to nothing about. I think he's Turkish. I can't remember what his name is. It's ridiculously ignorant of me, but I don't know anything about him. So half of the Henderson money straight away goes on a guy that I would say, when Ten Hag was drawing up his list for backup goalkeepers, this guy was probably outside the top 10. So let's not pretend that this backup goalkeeper is revolutionary or, is going to be a top goalkeeper in 5 years' time. I mean, we're literally spending £7 million on a bench warmer who Ten Hag probably didn't even want. So, look, there's not a lot to be excited about in relation to that. And I think that's why talk of this backup goalkeeper coming in, quite rightly, is about as interesting as a plate of carrots. It's I don't mind carrots, but I don't want it. I'm not uninterested. Can't sell him if I ran out for a period, says Robert. We're going to be talking about Maguire in a moment, mates. So yeah, look, I think Dean Henderson going is important. There are only a few days left of this window. Look, there's a tame version about what I'm going to say, and there's a little bit more of a bawdy version about what I'm going to say. I think with Manchester United, somebody said it's €7 million. Chizzy, at the end of the day, we're getting £15 million for Dean Henderson, and we're going to spend £5 million of it on a goalkeeper nobody knows about. You want to talk €7 million, £7 million. It's not ground-breaking difference, is what I'm saying. A good proportion of what we get for Henderson is going on a goalkeeper nobody knows anything about, and I don't think Ten Hag ever really wanted anyway. So really, we're going to walk out with £10 million in our pocket from Dean Henderson, and this is the problem. United don't have a lot of money. And I look at the last few days of this transfer window, and let's be honest, it's significant in what I'm about to say. Other teams have had very good transfer windows. We've got 5 days left of this window. What United are doing now in the last few days of the window, whatever we do, it's not going to be massively exciting. This is a little bit like, at Christmas, if you ever get a box of Quality Street or Celebration or Heroes, and you go and have a look the day after Boxing Day, and all the good chocolates are gone. and you're basically trying to make the best out of the orange cream or the coconut one or whatever. That's a little bit like what United are doing. You know, if you've got an important meeting and you forgot to do the washing, you go into the washing basket in the dirty linen and you try and pick the ones that aren't as dirty. You know, you're still providing yourself with something, but it's not as good. And the third option, I would say, if you've ever been there on a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday night down your local disco, you know, you've left it a little, let's just say you've left it a little bit late and all the good ones are gone. And you're there going, it's the best, picking the best of a bad bunch. And that's if they'll pick you. So I think with 5 days to go in this transfer window, United are not going to do anything revolutionary. This is really about what you can get. It's about what you can get. It's, you know, it's going down the local supermarket, 10 minutes to go on Christmas Eve, and you're trying to get your Brussels sprouts for your Christmas dinner, and you go there, and all that's left is the, you know, not the very good ones, and that's what United have left themselves in a situation with. So anybody who wants to champion this transfer window as progressive or getting our deals done early, just look at where we are. Look at where the team is. We are nowhere near ready. We haven't got enough players, and we're messing around doing deals like this that should... I mean, Dean Henderson should have been gone 2 months ago. He's done nothing for the club this summer. He's not been... I don't think he's played a minute. I don't think he's played a minute in pre-season. He's not played a minute in the normal season. 2 months we've been waiting to do this deal. So call it for what it is. It's an absolute shambles. And I just want to say as well that, you know, well, we'll come on to it in more depth in a minute, but the people who stayed behind yesterday, I saw mixed reception to that. I thought what they did was fantastic. Saw the clips. Some people were there, like from the United stand. Fair play to everybody who did stay behind. For me, it's not about front page news or breaking news on Sky or anything like that. Screw them. It's about... sending a message, and I don't care if there was 10 people there or 10,000 people there. I think they're legends, and I think what they did was fantastic. And I think if you don't embrace that as a United fan and you criticise it as a United fan, I don't get what you're looking to do. The club is there's so many issues with that football club, and we can be ignored as fans. So, you know, doing something is better than doing nothing. Wouldn't the Kovar fee cover the backup goalkeeper, says Stevie Matt? Yeah, you're right, but we're still talking about very low amounts. I mean, 15 million for Henderson, 15 million for Alanga. Was it 10 million for Fred? We've made about 40 million quid. Maybe 50 if you add in Kovar and Mabry and Emeran. We've made 50 million quid in sales. It's not great. Paul, I'm just going to remove you from the chat. I can't be bothered with people like you who think that United are doing well at the moment. Probably due to Henderson himself drawing that tasty United wage all summer. Same for Williams probably, and Maguire, says Rory C. Well, Maguire's made a big mistake not going to West Ham, but let's talk about CUCARELLA next. So, this is interesting. We put a poll up. Would you want CUCARELLA at Manchester United? Yes, 48%. No, 52%. Now, we're going to be talking about Donny, and we're going to be talking about Reguilon now. We've got an Amrabat update and a Harry Maguire update, so there's lots to go on. Very, very divisive, this. So, I'm surprised by this one. This came in from Fabrizio last night. We've got Fabrizio on the show tomorrow lunchtime as well. This came in from Fabrizio last night that Manchester United have approached Chelsea for CUCARELLA on a loan deal. Now, there's also talk of Reguilon as well. Obviously, he was at Spurs last season. Tanja, welcome to Members Club. So we've got 50-50 split on this. I actually want to now run a poll on whether you would go for CUCARELLA or Reguilon, because I have a very clear opinion on this, and so there you go. You can vote on those two. Now, why are we looking at CUCARELLA or Reguilon when we've got Alvaro Fernandez, Dalot, Malacia and Shaw? What's the issue with Malacia then? Because he's been injured since the end of last season. What is the should have kept Kovar, says Andy. What's the issue with Malacia, and what's the issue with Luke Shaw? Because they sound very, very long term to me if we're going for CUCARELLA or Reguilon on loan deals. They sound very, very long term. And I would also say that Dalot at left back, from what I saw of Reguilon and CUCARELLA, they're definitely more balanced because they're left-footed. But what is really going on at United if we're looking at that type of a left-back? Reguilon and Chelsea... Well, Cucurella cost 50 million quid a year ago, and Reguilon was at Spurs, wasn't he? So they're not bad quality left-backs. I mean, I don't think anyone would want to pay money for them, but this must be a major concern for Luke Shaw and Malacia, injury-wise, that we're looking for players like that. It certainly doesn't look like it's going to be short-term, does it? So that's my first thought. My second thought is, I liked the idea of Reguilon, but defensively he looked very suspect. Going forward, I quite like him, but defensively he looked suspect. So I think with Reguilon, the going forward side of it is interesting, but defensively it concerns me. And we're a bit lightweight defensively anyway. Cucurella, look, Pep Guardiola wanted Pep Guardiola a year ago. 18 months ago at Brighton, he was one of the best players in the Premier League. You'll probably find tweets of me saying how good Cucurella is. So I will not sit here and say Cucurella's a bag of shit, I don't want him at Man United. What I would say is his form at Chelsea has been horrific. Absolutely horrific. Predominantly playing in a back five. We've just taken Mason Mount from Chelsea. So I think the reason not to go for Cucurella is because of his Chelsea form. But we've just bought Mason Mount for 55 million quid, who was crap at Chelsea last year. So on a loan deal, I would go with Cucurella, because I personally think that you can... Look, if we're going to sit there with Mason Mount and say there's a player there and we're trying to find that player, then I would definitely say with Cucurella on loan, there's a player there and we could find that player. Because I'm not joking, at Brighton, he was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Unbelievably good. So I'm sort of like, I would go with Cucurella, because I think at their best, Cucurella is better than Reguilon. Whether you can get them at their best, I don't know. So I don't know. It's a very speculative and surprising link. But the fact that it's coming in from Fabrizio Romano, I think is rather interesting. I would go Cucurella. There's a massive risk, but you know what? We're going back to what I was just talking about. You know, we're back in bloody Sainsbury's picking out rubbish Brussels sprouts. You know, we're down the local disco in the last half an hour, desperately trying to take someone home, or for a kebab or whatever. You know, it's desperation time for Manchester United, and unfortunately, we're not buying Alphonso Davies. You know, we're not buying the best left backs in the world. We are going to have to. This is what I'm talking about. There's 5 days to go of this transfer window. And some of our fan base are getting snobby and arrogant about, I don't want Cucurella, I don't want Reguilon. Look at who we are and get angry about who we are. This is who we are. This is what we do. Agalos, Veghorsts, this is what we do. We wait to the end of the window, we panic, and we end up having to take huge risks. Cucurella is a massive risk. Of course he is. Reguilon is a massive risk. I would take Cucurella. This is not early days of the transfer window, buying your first choice left back. This is 5 days to go, pure desperation, and this is why we fail. Because proper football clubs, piss poor planning leads to piss poor performance. Proper planning leads to Manchester City and Newcastle and teams that are well run. We are what we do, and this is what we do. Unorganised, chaotic, mayhem. And therefore, look, you're asking me who I'd rather have, Cucurella or Reguilon. Neither. But in the desperation that's Man United, you've got to take a choice. Could we use the Kovar fee to sign the new backup goalie and use the fee for Henderson towards Amrabat at long last? Cucurella alone makes sense, says Alex. Going to talk about Amrabat in a moment. Morning, Mark. I think another good left-back will allow us to play Shaw at centre-back more regularly in the future, says Paps. Well, yes, I do agree with that. And 58% of you have gone with Cucurella, 59% have gone Cucurella, 58% have gone with Cucurella, 42% have gone with Reguilon. So that's where we are with that. Yeah, look, there's a very good player in Cucurella, but it will take a lot of work. I think Ten Hag is a developmental coach. Maybe it can happen. Just on the money that we have in the pocket at the moment, there's probably about £15 million there because of the sale of Dean Henderson. That will not be enough on its own for Amrabat. You will absolutely need another 10 million to get him. So we will need more than that to get Amrabat. And we'll talk about Amrabat in a moment. But with regards to raising some more money in the final few days of the transfer window, don't forget that Ten Hag wants to sell Harry Maguire. And don't forget, I don't think, I might be corrected on this, did he come on against Wolves? I'm not so sure. I'll have to double check that myself. But I don't think Harry Maguire has played a minute this season of Premier League action. That'll be enough for Southgate. You don't need to play games to get picked and play for England. That's the new rules. But he's certainly not been involved for Manchester United in any sense of the word when it comes down to... so he didn't come on against Wolves. He definitely didn't come on against Spurs, did he? I'm just double checking. He didn't come on yesterday either. So he's not played 1 minute of Premier League. Well, he wasn't even in the squad for Spurs. So he's not played 1 minute of Premier League football, despite being on the bench twice. He is definitely phased out. He's definitely had the message from Ten Hag. And Ten Hag has definitely made it clear that he is not part of his plans unless things go really, really wrong. Robert McCormack makes a good point that if Varane is injured, then it enhances Maguire's chances. But does it? Does it really, Robert? Because if Maguire goes, we'll buy another centre-back. So, of course, Maguire is closer to the first team if Varane is injured, but he's also as close to the exit door as he's ever been, because Ten Hag's like, well, if I have to use you, I will, but I don't want to use you, and I want somebody else. So if Maguire wants to stay in that environment, it's odd. It's odd. If I worked at a company and the manager said, I don't want you here, I don't think you're good at your job, why would I sit there and go, I'm going to prove you wrong? You know, you're basically defying the manager. Of course, it's all about money. The story is that West Ham are looking at Maguire again and looking at a way that they can provide United with a bit more money to cover Maguire's wages. I mean, look, if I was Harry Maguire, I'd be looking at West Ham now and I'd go, that's not a bad place to be. They're doing really, really well. That's my level. But obviously, he wants the financial payoff. If Maguire is still a Man United player in a week's time, it's about the money. Everybody knows that. If he's not a player for Manchester United in a week's time, it's because he got the money that he wanted. This is completely about money. It's never not been about money. And it's whether United can resolve that issue, or Harry Maguire can resolve that issue in the next few days. Mark, if United had brain cells, we would be dangerous. We should buy Frimpong and play Delo at left back for the short term, as Malacia and Shaw will return, says Adam. Good point. Slight blip. We will be back to our best for your visit to the Emirates next week, says Zane. Can't we look for converted left back and centre back? We are looking centre back as well. As Harry Maguire's out of the plan, it will be good to see multiple position players, says Swapnil. Welcome to Members Club, Ayush. So I would keep an eye on... Obviously, Dean Henderson has gone. There are 5 days left in the transfer window, and United still need to move some players out. Gifted a membership, Seth, you're a legend. Keep an eye on Maguire. He's got a very viable path to go and play for West Ham. It's a good option for him, and it's about the financial package. I would not say, with United not playing a game until Arsenal, and Harry Maguire's not played 1 minute, and he's not going to play against Arsenal, I'm going to just say this now. 2 things, actually. One's United related and one isn't. If Gareth Southgate picks Harry Maguire in the England squad after the Arsenal game, it's an absolute farce. He hasn't played 1 minute of Premier League action, and you're going to pick him in an England squad. And if you pick Kelvin Phillips ahead of James Ward-Prowse, you're an absolute disgrace, mate. England is not bloody Middlesbrough. It's not some, banter Premier League club. It's England. The best players in England. To be the best players in England, you've got to prove that you're the best players in England. And to do that, you've got to play club football. You cannot be picking Harry Maguire and Kelvin Phillips in your England squad when they don't play bloody football. The clue is in the name. England football team. You can't treat it like a bloody mates rates bloody pub team. So if I'm Harry Maguire this week and I'm Kelvin Phillips this week, I'm looking at it and going, the Euros are coming up at the end of the season. I haven't played 1 minute in 4 games. I need to find a move. So I would keep an eye on the Maguire deal all the way up until Friday night, because I think reality has got to kick in there. It can't just be about the money. If I was Harry Maguire and I was nowhere near the England squad, I'd be thinking, I've got 2 years left on my deal on 200 grand a week. Do I want to go down to West Ham? But he's got to factor in his England career. It's got to factor it in. So I would keep an eye on Maguire for the rest of this week. Sorry, Seb, but Harry needs to go, says John. I'm surprised he can't hear me, actually. How many signings do you expect before deadline day, says Solid? Okay, so look, I would keep an eye on Harry Maguire. We're talking about outgoings here. Henderson's gone. Harry Maguire would keep an eye out on. Brandon Williams has gone on loan, as we know. Donny van de Beek has to go. I'd keep an eye on that one. Fabrizio has said that it's complicated with Real Sociedad, but he's not even in the bench. You know, Maguire was on the bench. So Donny's not even on the bench. He is basically at the train station waiting for a train. It's just not turning up. It's delayed. Hopefully it will turn up because he's not even on. He won't even be on the bench. So he is out of the plans. Like Ten Hag's not even pretending he's part of the plans, and Ten Hag likes Donny. So I mean, Donny van de Beek's Man United career is just a disaster, isn't it? He's got to get out. Sociedad may well be where he goes. I don't know whether it's a loan deal or United are trying to get more money out of it. But again, I would say with Donny van de Beek, something will happen before the transfer deadline day. There's clearly conflict between Sociedad and Donny and Man United around the fee or the loan fee or whatever. And by Friday afternoon, that will be resolved one way or the other. And hopefully somebody else swoops in for him. But that he will go. Whether we get any money for it, I don't know. And then beyond that, I don't really think there's time to do anything else. Before we move on to incomings, I think Dean Henderson goes, Donny goes, Maguire possibly goes. I don't think anything else will happen. I don't think we've got the time. I think Scott McTominay should bloody go. He should go for the bloody haircut he had yesterday, to be honest with you. But crimes to haircuts, FC. But look, I don't think McTominay will go. I think he survives. And I think he survives because players like that survive when you have a bad transfer window. You know, he would not be at this football club if we were ran properly. I mean, there are plenty of headlines from this summer transfer window. For me, the most positive one is signing Rasmus Højlund. I can't wait to see him in a United shirt. That's a massive positive. The biggest negative headline is Man United rejects £30 million for Scott McTominay. I mean, that to me is like, hungry person rejects free burger. I mean, it could be a vegetarian burger if they're vegetarian, but I just don't get it. We're starving and we're rejecting food. I'll never understand that one. For me, that there's a video there on United's worst transfer decisions of the last 10 years, and for me, straight in at number one. I mean, I'll never understand that, but I don't think McTominay's going to go now. I think he'll stay. Talking of mates rates, what do you think about Mike Dean protecting his mate on crucial VR decision? Rimbik, it's a big topic on the podcast that's out on Tuesday, so I will leave that comment for that. James says it's like a homeless person saying no to a fiver. Yeah, well, I didn't want to go there because it might be a bit controversial, but yeah, there's plenty of those. It's like a virgin saying no to a hand job from Margot Robbie or someone like that, isn't it? But there's plenty more. Didn't Murta say in January we're planning for the summer? Lies, says Yuri. Yeah, I don't really get it. I don't really get it. But look. Ultimately, I think sometimes there's always hope. There's always hope that we will have a good transfer window, isn't it? There's still time. And I think reality, people need. If anybody's still hoping, reality, shit transfer window. It was a shit transfer window last year, by the way. I said when we bought Anthony and Casemiro, good signings, but the timing was horrific. It was desperation. We're now in the desperation days. I mean, look, I'd love to say, well, let's talk about incomings. I still think that Amrabat will happen. Fabrizio, it's interesting, isn't it? You've got Luckhurst in the Manchester Evening News who's dismissed the Amrabat deal all summer. And then you've got Fabrizio who's been saying that Amrabat's waiting for United all summer. Love the channel, keep it up, says Grant. So I think with regards to Amrabat, there's a very significant update here that I think everybody is missing. With Amrabat, what will happen is he will sign for Manchester United. I think it has to happen. I'd put him in the 90% club now. Now, look, there's a big leap of faith there, but when Fabrizio is saying that Amrabat wants Man United and he's waiting for Manchester United, there's no reason why this wouldn't happen now, unless United completely, turn away from it. Because it's Fabrizio saying that Amrabat's waiting on Man United. And he clearly has been waiting for Man United for 2 months. He's not part of the Fiorentina squad. He's not playing for Fiorentina. There's a lot of players at this stage of the season that are for sale would still be playing as an important player. He's not playing. It's very adamant that he wants to go. And it's very adamant that he wants to come to Manchester United. So I do see this deal happening. I mean, ultimately, he won't play against Arsenal. He's not going to play against Arsenal. So this deal could go all the way to Friday, which United will be rubbing their hands together for, because he will not play against Arsenal. We know Ten Hag. We know he's a laptop coach around fitness. Some people take that in an offensive way. I'm not being offensive, but he is. And other top managers are like this. They've got their fitness people with their algorithms, and they're like, Rasmus trained today, but we're not having him in the squad because, the chance of injury is a lot higher. He needs more training. Amrabat's not been training properly. He's not been playing pre-season games. Amrabat's not in the squad for Arsenal, no matter what, which is probably a massive indicator that Scott McTominay is staying, because we will not have Amrabat in the squad on Sunday, even if we sign him today. So I think Amrabat will happen. I think United will be aware that he won't be playing against Arsenal anyway, so we can push that deal all the way to Friday at 10 o'clock if we want to. I think it will happen. And I think logically that might be the only deal that happens anyway. If Maguire goes, we may get another centre-back, but I think Amrabat and a centre-back and maybe one of these left-backs on loan will be the limit of what Manchester United do. I don't see anything else. I know there's been talk of Gravenberch. I think United would probably go Gravenberch over Amrabat. I don't think we're going to be in a position where we get both of those players. Ideally, Amrabat, Gravenberch, McTominay goes would be brilliant, but I just don't think that'll happen. Mark, did Rashford sleep with Keown's missus or something? He couldn't wait to slate him on Match of the Day last night. Keown, Souness, Carragher, Prats as usual, says Andy. Look, there's many reasons that platforms like this thrive, and it thrives because of people like you who watch it and the conversation that we have. It's real. There are always bias because of the club we support, but we're also pragmatic as well. The big problem with and I've seen it in the States, and it might happen in other countries as well. But the big problem with what we have in this country and look, I try to ignore it. Because basically it's a job for the boys. I played football, so I'm allowed to talk shit for the rest of my career on TV. Gaza is one of the best football players I've ever seen. You wouldn't put him on TV because he just hasn't got the vocabulary or the sense to talk about football in that way. Yeah, he was the most cultured footballer I've seen play in an England shirt. All these ex-players are riddled with idiocy and bitterness. They can't be pragmatic. And if you can't be pragmatic, you can't be a good observer of football. I watched Liverpool last week. Szoboszlai exaggerated his dive, but he was fouled. So it's not a dive. He exaggerated it to make sure he got the penalty, but he was fouled. Marcus Rashford yesterday exaggerated his fall to the ground, but it was a foul. That's what opportunist players do. You see the defender make the mistake of making the foul, and you bloody make sure the referee sees it, because if you try and stay on your feet, you don't get a penalty. Marcus Rashford did exactly what any Liverpool player, any Man City player will do. It's a penalty. It's not a dive. A dive is simulation. A dive is where there's no contact and you take a tumble. That's not a dive. It's an exaggeration to make sure idiots give you the bloody penalty. Because if you don't exaggerate it, these prats are bloody useless. The defender commits himself, realises he's made a mistake, tries to pull it away. He actually makes 2 contacts with Rashford, one with his ankle, one with his thigh. It's a stonewall penalty. And Keown and co can all do one, because if next week if that's Dalot on Saka, he'll be sat there going Stonewall penalty. It's so poor. It's so poor what we have to put up with. These people get paid to talk nonsense. Now, I'm not going to say I don't make mistakes, but I look at the red card yesterday, even in the heat of the battle, even at 2-2, knowing we need to win, I said that red card is debatable. It's debatable at best. I was over the moon we got it, but it was debatable because I always look at any decision and go, What if it's the other way around? If that was for Forest yesterday and that's Wan-Bissaka, it's a penalty. I can't call it a dive because Wan-Bissaka's gone in and caught him. It's a penalty. If that's the other way round and that's that's Alanga running between Lindelof and Martinez takes him down, but Lindelof's at the side, I'm like, Lindelof's got a really good chance of getting there. I don't think it is a red. So, look, I look at things pragmatically. I think most of you do. But unfortunately, we're riddled with the, I've played the game, bitter bastards. They're just bitter. They're bitter. And you cannot be a pundit of football if you are bitter. Because you just come across as a sad, cry your eyes out, mate. And I'm not in for that. If Rashford had dived yesterday, I'd be laughing my head off saying, we got away with it. We got away with it. But he didn't dive. He simply didn't dive. And I don't think it was a red card for Forest. And I'll be honest, I thought the referee was shit yesterday. I thought the yellow card for Onana, the yellow card for Bruno was ridiculous. I think too many yellow cards. I think he made some bad decisions both ways. But penalty 100%. Probably not a red card for Forest. And that's a United fan talking. So, Anyway, let's move on. Just wanted to say this as well. Big 5 days. Let's see what happens. We have got a Sunday night show today. Also want to just say this. The club's a bloody mess. We already know that. And but yesterday we saw people staying in. Credit to them anyway. I mean, they were going to stay in for an hour, but they bloody had to watch 13 minutes after the 90. So they must have had to stand up and do some stretches because it was a long time sat down watching that game yesterday. Absolute credit to this football club, the people who sat in yesterday for 60 minutes. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. We may be a shambles as a football club, and of course we've got people in the fan base that try and divide it. We know who those people are. But we don't need to be like that. We're United fans. We should be united together around the issues in this football club, of which there are many within that football club. As I said, it doesn't matter whether 10 people stay behind or 1,000 or 10,000. It still sends the message, and it should still be acknowledged and praised by the fan base. And it's great to see that was. There are so many issues, and obviously that protest yesterday was about the Glazers leaving the football club. I saw some tweets last week, and I think it was Adam Crafton in The Athletic. I got sent the actual interview he did yesterday. And I've got to mention this because it might bore some of you, but it's to do with Mason Greenwood, but it's not to do with him directly. It's to do with Manchester United. And I couldn't believe what I was listening to. I mean, I'd read his tweets, but having listened to his actual interview, Adam Crafton, he basically said publicly, so he's open to be sued if he wants to be, so he's obviously very, very sure about it. He said that they have seen the projected projects that Manchester United had in place for Mason Greenwood before they completely turned. So if you wanted Greenwood back, you were basically going to get him back. And if you didn't want Greenwood back, this is how close it was to it happening. So according to Adam Crafton, they'd seen the project plan for bringing Greenwood back. It involved what sort of training pictures they would release of Mason Greenwood for positive PR. Which would probably, I would imagine, involve him cuddling up to Rashford or Bruno and, psychologically making you think, oh, Greenwood's back and we want him back. Ten Hag was to be trained in how to answer questions in the short term and the long term that conveyed a positive image of Mason Greenwood. They also listed, this is the terrifying bit, they also listed various people on whether they would be positive, could be manipulated to be positive, or whether they would be hostile. This included shareholders, brands, fan groups, the media, and charities around domestic abuse, which were potentially being listed as hostile. It's incredible. And in the raft of problems that Manchester United have, when I listened to that from Adam Crafton, and I'm just feeding it in, I've not seen this document, I was stunned, absolutely stunned. And we can protest about the Glazers, and we must do, but there was people in Manchester United who work at Man United, and it's very important to say this, whether it's about the Glazers or whether it's about the Greenwood issue or whether it's about transfers, Man United employ a lot of good people. There's a lot of good people in there who have no power. They are paid employees, and they are subjected to by whatever the CEO and the Glazers say. There was a lot of people very, 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 very unhappy about the way United dealt with it. And they were probably aware of all that stuff I've just mentioned there. Richard Arnold shouldn't be in a job. If he was a politician, he'd be gone. And this is the danger at Manchester United. They can do what they bloody well like and they survive. I don't know how you solve that problem. There should be accountability in a football club. Football clubs should not be run by dictators who can just do what they like in the name of Manchester United. I think the way that was dealt with last week and some of these leaks do not represent what Manchester United Football Club is. And a CEO who's been part of that should be fired. He should resign. The fact that he's sat there surviving doesn't represent Manchester United. Manchester United is a business, unfortunately, but it's also our club. And these people act in the name of our football club with shockingly out of touch decisions like that. I'm disgusted by it, and he should go. He should go based on what Adam Crafton has put out there, because obviously they are very, very confident that that was what was going to happen. And if that was going to happen, you've got to go. But it will get lost. It will get lost on let's go and do a signing this week. It will get lost on we want the Glazers out. But the way the club handled that in the name of Manchester United is an absolute disgrace, and shame on the media and everybody else who's just sweeping it under the carpet. Because I tell you what, if that was an MP for the government and they behaved like that, they would be hounded until they were out of the club. And Richard Arnold should not be the CEO of Manchester United. That is an absolute disgrace, the way they dealt with that. An absolute joke. And he should be gone. And it amazes me that it's just been swept under the carpet. And he'll be sat there at home now going, it's just noise, we'll be fine, let's sign a player. That is an absolute joke. An absolute joke. A disgrace to this football club that you were conducting that sort of spin around something like that. And the reason it's a joke is because it's just about them getting what they want. They clearly wanted to bring the player back because he had a value. There's no consideration of why fans didn't want him back. And, you know, listing charities as hostile. Maybe they're hostile for a reason. Maybe you needed to be engaging with those people if you were planning on bringing this player back. But pictures in training and how you spin it, just look, it might not be that important to you. But if United can behave like that about things like that, no wonder we are where we are. If they're messing up major serious issues like that, imagine the amount of bad decisions that go on a daily basis. It's disgusting, and he should go, and everybody involved in that should go. And if they don't understand why they should go go again, because it's disgusting. You represent Manchester United Football Club. Do you not know what it's all about? Do you not know what Manchester United actually represents? Because it doesn't represent that. It's meant to represent its fans. It's meant to be, you know, a ship of good. It's meant to be something that, you know, stands for something. And at the moment, the name Manchester United is in the mud for many, many different reasons. And anybody that was party of that, and I'm sorry to say, if Ten Hag was part of that, well, I'm sorry, mate, you might want to go and read about what this football club's all about. And I don't know that Ten Hag's involved in it. And Ten Hag isn't part of it as far as I'm concerned. But anybody that's got their fingerprints on that, disgusting. Disgusting. Anyway, look, I think it's important that you know about that. And I think it's... Look, there's probably people out there that want Mason Greenwood back. And, you know, you should be disgusted by it as well, because ultimately the club wanted to bring him back. They had their plans in place and then they've shit themselves. So however you look at it, this is not about being pro-Greenwood or against Greenwood. It's about the way the club dealt with it. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. But it's gone very, very quiet, and Richard Arnold will continue to be our CEO. I tell you what, if we get sold, I hope the first thing Qatar do, or whoever the owner is do, is sack him and all the people around him who were involved in that, because I'm disgusted. And I wouldn't normally say that sort of stuff. And I would say this, Richard, if you've been misquoted time and time again, we've said, biggest Man United fan community, have a chat with us. If you've been misquoted or it's wrong, have a chat with us. But you won't do it because you think you're better than that. You're in a position of power and you think you can do what you want. And that's exactly what this is all about. You think you can do what you want to this fan base because it's up to you. Well, let's see. Let's see. Where's your comeback on this? Where's your interview? You should walk, mate. You should resign, because the message that's left around you at the moment is one of arrogance and complete and utter lack of empathy, you know, not reading the room. Disgusted. And it needed to be said, because we're all focused on transfers and we're all focused on the Glazers. We've also got a very serious issue that has been absolutely disgraceful, and it's not getting spoken about enough, and it should be spoken about. It's disgusting the way the club dealt with that, and the CEO was the very top of that mountain, I'm afraid. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back at 8 o'clock. I am doing Liverpool-Newcastle on That's Football at 4 o'clock as well. So if you want a bit of a football watch along, we've got that at 4 o'clock. I think it's a cracking game. I'm looking forward to it. We've got the 8 o'clock show and anything that happens in between. Take care, everyone. You're all legends. I'll speak to you all in a bit.